The Hollywood strikes are over, and these were monumental, because as Variety was so keen to tell us, women became the backbone of the strikes. They said, I'm loud, and I know how to organize.
Do you know how many hours I work a day, Ralph? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Holidays are a double shift.
Which, considering the famous phrase,
man works from sun to sun, but woman's work is never done.
You would have thought if they knew how to organize, they'd eventually get finished. But I'm fully for this. I think this is a great strategy for them to become the backbone of the network, specifically for one reason.
The power dynamic of the world is this: the peasants, the rich, the elites, the deep state, women with big titties.
And as you can tell from unbiased reporting like that of Varieties, if they have become the backbone of the strike, they've clearly been contributing a lot.
Striking here at SAG because I believe in solidarity. I believe writers deserve, what they deserve. I am striking because I believe in equality. That's what I believe in.
Right. Two intellectual behemoths there. And they bring new, unique perspectives and negotiation strategies. I think we can call it that. Can we get away with that one, mate? Such as Fran Drescher's emotional support plushie revealed. This Jellycat heart is stealing the show at SAG-AFTRA negotiations. In a recent report where CEOs were taken aback by her in a negotiation session. I don't know why. Completely eludes me. We are talking about contract negotiations and the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Why is there a child here? They seem to think that they can bring toys in here because they can't handle a bit of emotion.
I wanted to just clarify a few things for you.
One spy? It's a bit dramatic language for a source, isn't it? If more journalists went around calling their sources spies, the public would probably want their names revealed a bit more. But one spy told us that Drescher had been carrying around a Furby, the furry doll that inspired a craze in the thousands, just in case you had no idea what a Furby was. Seriously, how many Zoomers are reading Variety? From toy maker Hasbro, okay love, at this point it's just an advertisement, but she had been planting it in front of the studio heads at the negotiation table, saying, my Furby is watching you. I can't imagine why CEOs were taken aback by her negotiation strategy, as she was saying that a Furby was going to be keeping their eye on them. What's it meant to be, like a lie detector test? Oh, it's got a personality of its own, don't you love this? Look, some people may call it childish, others may call it unique. But as other people, not me, would question her professionalism, Fran Drescher hit back at the critics.
I don't have to emulate male energy to lead. I can lead with a sense of dignity and fairness and morality.
I don't need to emulate male energy. I can lead with morality and fairness. What about professionalism, though? What about the attitude that it's not about you?
I can be exactly who I am. I can be me.
It's about the business.
I can still rock a red lip. And I can lead and still hold on to a little plush toy in the shape of a heart that I call love.
Oh, no, I guess it is all about you after all. There is a reason why you use a uniform. It's to deliberately de-individuate you. You're meant to look like everybody else because business isn't about you. It's about the business. Professionalism is a code of conduct because it's polite. You're not meant to bring you into business. You're irrelevant, and the work you do is more important than you are.
And I always turned it into something positive, a women and girls movement.
Really beginning to see a pattern now, aren't we?
There's a theme here, by the way. A little bit.
To not need to emulate male energy, but to lead with empathy and intellect.
This is a women and girls movement. We're going to lead with empathy and intellect, not like those stupid men over there. I can't imagine why all your male colleagues may have been taken aback by your condescending attitude. But then again, maybe if I had your intellect, I'd be able to understand it.
Not need to emulate male energy, but to lead with empathy and intellect.
Be right back. I'm just going to try and work out how to master rudimentary tools.
The boy's magic.
No, this magic belongs to no boy.
You would assume the lead person on the strike would all be about the workers. I need to get the best for them, and I need to get them back to work as fast as possible. And yet that doesn't seem to be Fran's priority. In fact, this is something that she kept repeating.
I wanted my fandom to look at me and be inspired and say, if Fran can do that, so can I.
You get the feeling that getting the workers back into a job as fast as possible was never the main idea. This was more about legacy, attention, and the self-aggrandizement that can only come with thinking that you can somehow influence the world. Because you know who children always look up to? Some random bint who works for a union. Are you going to actually do any work? No, I'm going to leech off a union position. Now, I could understand when you only get a couple of bit gigs a year, why you're not that concerned about being on strike longer. and just remaining unemployed. It's not like you were going to be at work anyway, and so a small increase is still a net positive to your life. But that's not the same for people who are actually successful.
If Fran can do that, so can I.
If you work for 300 days and get a 1% increase, you only have to miss 3 days of work to entirely wipe out that increase. And the less days a year you work, the fewer you have to miss to totally wipe it out. That's why, despite this speech,
we are union through and through, all the way to the end.
I am Locutus, a Borg.
not everyone was on board with the actors' strike, especially when it kept being dragged out for absolutely no reason. Well, except to inspire the youth that they too can ruin businesses.
A women and girls movement.
That's why Clooney and other A-listers were willing to give SAG over $150 million to help end the strike. Like, we are losing more money than we would give you. Please just go back to work. But dear old Fran, she had a legacy to build. She had to inspire people. And it meant she said no. Despite the A-listers wanting to eliminate the $1 million cap on guild dues that would be payable in an attempt to offset costs from the studios, as well as suggesting that the best paid in the industry would be the last to collect residuals, meaning that the money goes to the worst paid. It's a great deal for everybody. Or so you'd think. A lot of the top earners want to be part of the solution and were turned down. Oh, I mean, there was plenty of excuses why it was turned down. First of all, I want to thank certain members that wield a lot of clout in this business.
Certain members that wield a lot of clout in this business.
I would also want to thank George Clooney for organising the suggestion that, although when you hear her actually say it herself, it doesn't sound quite so polite.
I also want to thank George Clooney for organising the suggestion.
But what was a reason for turning down $150 million? Oh, well, we're actually a union, and so the only contributions that can go into our pensions and health funds must come from the employer. It's like, okay, that wasn't what anyone asked. What the A-listers were suggesting is, how much money do I have to give you so I can go back to work? It's not about your pensions, it's essentially trying to bribe you to be sensible. There must be an amount of money that you want. Whatever it is, we give it you in guild fees, but no. It was more important that it came from the employer. Whatever contributions would go into your pension or health funds, you could just increase the number until you hit whatever that would be. But for Drescher, it was really important that it came from the employer. We are fighting, so it goes in the contract. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about getting all of the actors back to work. It was about the contract. They had to be seen to break the studios. And then she goes, oh, it's all apples and oranges. Yeah, I know. Some people may think that money and money is the same thing, but sometimes it's more important of where the money comes from. If I want to leave a legacy for young girls to look up to so that they one day can be me.
A women and girls movement.
Then how am I supposed to get that unless I break the studios? As for the suggestion about the residuals, they basically just went, we looked at it and we said no. That doesn't hold water because, frankly, this is a very nuanced house of cards. I could mean literally anything. My favourite, the one where it says that lifting the cap wouldn't be legal. That was never said in the statement. She actually said that taking the caps off would be accepted graciously, but it wouldn't go into the pensions and health fund, so it was unworkable. There's nothing about it being illegal, because they get it confused with a later statement. We at the union and negotiation committee are waiting for the CEOs to return to the table so that we can continue our talks, because in either saying no or walking away from the table, you're not really in negotiation. Walking away from the table actually is not only very naughty.
Walking away from the table actually is not only very naughty.
Literally talking to the CEOs of multi-billion-dollar corporations like they're 3-year-old children. Oh, you've been ever so naughty. But it is also not legal, which is an absolutely astonishing statement. That if you say no to our demands, that's illegal. We can just demand whatever we want. No matter how absurd what we demand, it's illegal for you to say no. Because the unions seem to always just bang on about one thing. You must negotiate with us. And their idea of it seems to just be, give us what we want. If you're not giving us what we want, you're not negotiating.
I believe writers deserve, what they deserve.
And you have to ask, if they were offered $150 million, why would they turn it down? What were they asking for instead that was so important to them? Well, SAG had looked at the studios, the economy, and realised that all of them were losing hundreds of millions of dollars and thought, we're going to be very reasonable. We're only going to ask you for an extra $500 million ourselves. Proposed a plan to see each streaming platform pay 57 cents per subscriber per year. Makes a lot more sense now why they've turned down 150 million when you're asking for 500 instead. And to hear the way that Fran describes it is incredible.
It may not be easy, it may not be what they want, but it is an elegant way to solve the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's one word for it. We've come up with a new original solution. It's basically, give us all of your money. I appeared in one of your shows once, and for some reason that makes me entitled to your subscription revenue. Nobody knows why. Oh, and don't worry. It gets worse. This money would then go into a jointly administered fund that would dole out the money to actors whose projects appear on the platform based on popularity. The trustees of the fund would be in charge of deciding how the residual payments are paid out among the cast. Yeah, just give me a $500 million slush fund and don't worry, I'll decide when the money goes. If someone suggests that, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could defenestrate them. And you notice how this is an entirely different pay structure than what the A-list celebrities were proposing. They were saying, we already make enough money, so not only will we give you more fees, but we won't even take our residuals. You can just pay them to whoever the lowest paid people are. But then SAG-AFTRA's own suggestion was, yeah, we'll get more money off the studios, but these will be paid to the most popular shows. And you know what the actors in popular shows make? A lot more money. So they don't really need the residuals, but they're gonna be getting them anyway. That's why comments about George Clooney's offer made absolutely no sense. Industry insider Matthew Bologna broke down the deal. Said, oh, it doesn't make sense. It was a symbolic gesture, a very expensive bone to throw at the proletariat. Piss off with that language right now, mate. But the best part about it is at least he was throwing them a bone. He came up with a deal that would make the lowest paid earn more, compared to SAGs, where they get nothing unless they happen to look a role in an incredibly successful show. Not that any of this mattered. Despite Fran's gnashing of teeth and talk about how illegal it was because you weren't actually willing to even consider their farcical offer, they never got that $500 million, nor in the end did they end up with $150 million either. Yes, apparently someone who's never heard the saying your eyes are too big for your belly before. The studio's first offer was to come back and say, we will give you 20 to 30 million a year on a bonus pay structure based around success of projects, which is very similar to what the WGA got. Which then, after continuing to strike for quite a while after that offer, it got slightly boosted to 40 million a year. And so over 3 years, they end up at 120, which is still significantly less than they're offered by George Clooney. Oh, congratulations. It's such great leadership. What an amazing deal. We're starting to claw our way back. You would have been a little bit closer if you'd accepted other people's offers. You see, when it comes to SAG-AFTRA, the union did not get one of its top priorities, a share of revenue from each subscriber. She sought 2% of streaming revenue, which was later cut to 1%, or about 500 million a year. What, so they wanted $1 billion at first? So what the studios are calling it is a streaming participation bonus. That's the 40 million. And Duncan Crabtree, the union's top negotiator, said, it's not 500 million. That's why that guy gets paid the big bucks. But we were never expecting that that would be the ultimate number. If you're negotiating with someone in good faith and you go, I want 500 million, and they go, that's ridiculous, we're not negotiating with that, and walk off. Have you ever considered that your negotiation strategy isn't very good? It never seems to be about getting people back to work as fast as possible. It just seems to be about trying to save face. Oh, don't worry, we negotiated really hard. We asked for a number we thought we'd never get. Don't worry, adding 120 million over the course of a 3-year contract is significant. Not as significant as over 150 million though, is it? Drescher argued that actors would need to get into the pocket of streaming, and instead they just ended up holding it. We have to find the pocket so we get our rightful share. We're building this platform. No, you're not. You're standing in front of a camera and pretending for a living. About twice a year. For that job, you get paid. You're building nothing. They're building the business on us. The businessmen build the business. You shut down the business. But then, when they talk about the subscriber revenue, Crabtree says it became clear during the course of the strike that the studios and streamers weren't going to go there, so we had to pivot. It's like, oh, really? They're not going to go there? I wonder what could have given you that idea. Was it when the negotiations completely collapsed because the deal was basically done and then they saw the WGA offer and thought, whoa, we'd love a piece of that? So they were deep into the negotiation when SAG-AFTRA just decided to lob in this 500 million or $1 billion, depending on who you talk to, question to demand money from every subscriber. A levy on every subscriber with no insight into the revenue per subscriber or anything. Was any of that a hint that what you'd introduced was a farcical idea, and he's just like, well, it eventually became clear that they weren't going to go there. No, instead, they get the WGA deal, you know the one they turned down and said was unworkable. But instead, they'll get 100% of the residuals, with 75% of the money going to the actors and 25% going into a random slush fund that the employers and the union will decide where that money goes. Distributed more broadly to actors on a range of streaming shows. Not just the popular ones. Beginning to sound suspiciously like that A-list celebrity offer, isn't it, really? You know, the one that couldn't work because it was just a nuanced house of cards. Except for significantly less money than that idea was originally. Over time, we can hopefully repair the damage that been done to an actor's lifestyle. You mean the one that you did, voluntarily, by refusing to work? That one. No, instead of asking for reasonable numbers operating in good faith with the intention of getting people back to work as soon as possible, instead, they ended up striking for 118 days. They added in a subscriber levy which just dragged it on for no reason whatsoever, only to end up with an amount of money that was less than was offered by A-list celebrities to try and get them back to work. And you know that really important thing that both the writers and the actors were so scared of and needed protections against? Well, yeah, performers are criticizing complete disregard over AI complaints following the deal. Some actors are unhappy with the contract because things like unprecedented wage escalation was already on their cards anyway, but artificial intelligence technology, that was one of the sticking points. Now the WGA, they basically got it all locked down, you can't do it, and if you do use AI, then that gets linked to a writer anyway. No. Members have complained that AI is still a threat. Voice actors and stunt doubles are highlighted how AI could render them jobless. That while they do require the actor's consent in order to use their voice or body, this also continues after their death. Other terms of the agreement introduce the potential for a synthetic performer, which is a digitally created asset in which there is no employment arrangement for the motion picture with an actor. So unlike the WGA where it's like, okay, we can lock this down, in this they go, no, we're definitely going to do it. Yeah, we want to generate fake people and have them act. And also in the contract, unlike SAG-AFTRA wanted, they are allowed to train these AI models over these 3 years. I mean, actors can say, I'm begging my fellow actors to decline being scanned for AI. They don't need to. An actor's face and a non-actor's face are the same. They can go and pay somebody in the street a few £100 to help train their AI model. They don't need actors. And so yes, while signing this away now to limit the use of it in movies, it's not a big deal for them because the technology's not there anyway. But what they do want to be doing, and they're allowed to during these 3 years, is to train it so that when the contract runs out, the technology will be far more advanced, and then they can. You see, Fran Drescher wanted to inspire young people to be just like her.
And I always turned it into something positive, a women and girls movement.
That she struck for a long time, asked for money that they knew they were never going to get, and lost sight of the main objective, to ensure that you've got a job in the long term. Because while doing this strike for 118 days, and making such insane demands as levies on every subscriber, you priced yourself out of the market, and you showed studios what you were willing to do. You would shut down their entire business, the entire industry, and that means they need a backup plan. You didn't just show that AI is good and could save them money. You made it a requirement. You made it a necessity, so the next time you go and do this, sure that you don't have that same leverage, that you can't shut down the entire industry. By getting actors to shut down the industry and demand such massive amounts of money, you made AI actors both monetarily desirable and physically required in order to do business. So congratulations, Fran. You have left a legacy for SAG-AFTRA and the union. I'm just not sure in the long term it's going to be the one that you wanted it to be.
Not need to emulate male energy, but to lead with empathy and intellect.
But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.